Okay. So, whoa. Okay, you were talking about
We were talking about
mazes,
maze
routing, and
generation.
making
Yeah,
interesting. Not only making the player aware of the overall picture, but making it
yeah, that was
interesting.
it. Making they're both problems, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
making them even aware of the map is tricky because um, it is like you are so zoomed in when you're moving around. And when you look at the overworld map, you can see like, oh, okay, I can go this way. But if you don't open the map, then you don't see any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a forced thing of like, I want to pester the player to open the map more often.
Two potential ways to fix that when you're traveling from one patch to the other and it's doing that transition. You can do, if it's even possible, like a zoom out effect, and then it kind of shows you on the map moving from one square to the other, and then zoom in as you walk across the barrier.
So
Uh,
I can't do a zoom out effects. It's too much rendering. But what I
yeah.
can do, um, okay. So if you go to my devlog again and
Okay.
scroll up a little bit, I have added like when you take a shortcut, you do a little fast travel animation, which I think actually does a good job of like making the world feel more connected. So I could maybe extend that.
Let me see. Hold
If
on,
let's
hold
say
on.
if we
Let me
scroll
find
up,
it. Find it here and go here. Scroll up from where I was, from the bottom.
um, yeah, just keep scrolling up a little bit more
Is it
from where
a
you are.
is it a GIF?
It was done a few days before. Yeah, there's a few gifts. It was done a few days before what you're looking at.
Something like this?
Getting there, getting there. Go a bit higher. There'll be gifts of
Okay.
like fast travel.
Okay. So colorful. Mm. There's short. It says shortcut open. I'm still scrolling up.
Here we go. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So a little bit higher is the gift that I was going to show you.
Okay.
That's me trying to make a dungeon. That's
Okay.
the first.
Here.
Yeah. So these shortcuts can open, and then you see
Oh wow! Look at that. Yeah, I like that.
So that's a behind the scenes view, but then you see on the top one, that's
Mhm.
what it looks like. Um, and then if you scroll back down just a little bit,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm. Dotted line moving.
yeah, so that's showing you a connected shortcut that you've unlocked on your map. And if you scroll down a little bit more, there was a picture that had a map in the lower right hand corner, like a mini map.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when you're doing that fast travel animation now, it shows this map and it shows you like the red X. It shows it like
Okay. A lot of those seem like they'd be good solutions. I like the. It's interesting.
you're back. So yeah, so you as you move along, it shows this on this like little mini map your movement, and I don't have that open all the time because it kind of obscures the screen a little bit.
Mhm.
But what it could do is when you're standing on those connector rooms, like you suggested earlier, that mini map could appear,
Mhm.
and then it will like because that's a good point. You know, if you're thinking like, do I go this way? To have the mini map appear in the corner at that point, I think might be a smart idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how in Smash Brothers the tiny little map that they added for Ultimate. I used to think it was really
Yeah.
annoying and I don't even notice it, but then when I need it, it's always there. I'm like, that's neat.
Yeah.
Just so this should be fine.
Yeah. I think that would help a lot with being able to tell what's around you. Yeah.
Mm. Okay.
Um, but then there is the question of like, you know, if we have like I think I've reached like a moderately good middle ground at the moment with the number of like turnings and things, but because
Mhm.
it's procedurally generated, you inherently come up with things like, oh well, you know, there's only one sensible way to go, or you know, this is kind of a dead end.
Mhm.
Like even in that picture you're looking at, you see there's that sort of in on the right, there's that like dead end circle, dead end square
Mhm.
that doesn't go anywhere. Um, so it's again that challenge of like, should I maybe even just forget the shuffling map and author a map, um, even though that would then make all the roguelike runs a lot more similar, playing one after the other.
I think having a authored map and then having a roguelike mode afterwards for scoring and stuff is perfectly fine. Maybe hopefully that's not like double the work, but I feel like you're thinking about it of I have to give up something, but I don't think you have to give up anything. Uh, even if the center most part of the map was authored, and then the further you go out, it gets procedure. I think we talked about options like that before.
So yeah, I've actually done a little bit of that. So something I'm going to add. If you go back to my, no, you're in the devlog, but if you scroll back down, there's some pictures where I've drawn some like red lines on the map.
Okay. Yeah, you've done so much work. This is crazy.
I'm busy.
Right here. More.
Hang on. I think I've desynced because I'm just going to refresh the Twitch page.
Okay.
Yeah, those red lines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, another thing that I want to add, because at the moment the game is very open, trying to come up with more like just little quests I can give the player, especially at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm thinking is that when you start the game, right now you have 4 different directions you can travel in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking it would actually be better to limit that to one direction and say, oh, the other 3 exits are blocked, you can't use them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to go out into, say, the forest first. And then to unlock those other exits, what you'd have to do is you'd have to run out left into the forest and then maybe go up into the hills and then go around and back down to your base.
One-way doors.
And then there'll be and then there'll be like a boss battle there. You beat him and it's like, we cleared the blockade. So now you can use that exit. So that's why I've got this authored sort of circle around your base, where all those quests. And then also to expand on that, I've made it so that there's always when you leave and go forwards, there's always a left-right turning. There's never a forwards.
Mm-hmm.
See on that map there, they're all like T-junctions.
Yep.
When you come out, so that's another like authored element. So I like the idea of having some more of those. Maybe just some more points on the map where there's like an authored decision like that. Might be a good idea.
Interesting. I'll run through the rest of these notes. So over time the player gets more powerful, but nothing substantial, right? You can't like over level and just crush the game. Is that correct?
Hang on a second. I think we'd lost connection there for a second, but I can hear you now, I think.
Okay. Okay. Is there a way for the player to level up and just ultimately just crush the challenge of the game? Is that possible?
So the leveling up, the way it works now, is that there's a skill grid, as you saw, and each of those grids gives you a challenge that, you know, some of them are kind of substantial, but a lot of them are kind of minor, especially as you get further out into the grid. And so there is like a max point. There's no like leveling your base stats to a certain like extreme degree where you can just crush everything.
Okay.
It's more like, oh, you've got this extra little situational ability. For example, you can get one that helps you not get pushed around by sliding terrain. You know, it's like a pair of boots you can get. And then there's also, you know, the blend slots in your gun. That's probably the most substantial. Then also like the flash bomb and the stun gun skills when you're unmounted. So there's these like little things. There's 20 of them. So 20 is the level cap right now. But it doesn't increase your base stats. It's not like, oh, every time I level up, my attack and defense go up by 5% or something.
Okay. Because that's usually one way for difficulty to be managed from people who just keep trying and trying. But that's not in this game. Okay.
I think that when it comes to the combat, the way to really make it more interesting from where it is to focus on the elite monsters and make them have more of like a quirk of like a timing based thing or a, you know, some kind of like puzzle aspect to them. And keeping the basic monsters roughly how they are, because I don't want to, like, I am concerned about making the game too challenging for people who don't play these kinds of games. I don't want to necessarily like get myself into a niche where my market appeal is too limited, where like, oh, most people can't really play this game, so don't bother. So I'm trying to like have kind of a gradient of like these early enemies you can just sort of like shoot them. You don't have to worry too much as long as
Yeah.
you're dodging and shooting, you're doing okay. But then the elites, maybe I could have more of these kind of puzzle aspects.
That's a lot of stuff to think about. A lot of them are interconnected. What is this? Lucky Shield? Bark Shield.
The power-ups are a little underdeveloped right now. Threw them all in the space of a week, just so that I'd have something to throw at the player, you know, when they get somewhere. But yeah, they do little like minor helpful things.
Man, I keep missing that attack. That's very difficult to aim.
Tremor, yeah, it is. There's a difficulty in the fact that both you and the monsters can use these attacks.
Yeah.
Like, Tremor's quite an interesting one when the enemy uses it. Because it's like, oh, it's making a triangle, and I'm like, boxed in, you know? I've got to, like, do something about that. But then when you use it, it's like, you can't aim it. So maybe what I could do is put, like, a third stream when you use it. So it's like a triple beam.
I just have a hard time visualizing where the streams are going to be. So I don't know if there's a way to be like, if you hold the button, then you get like your little aiming guidelines. But you know, I think it's fine missing too. Like I can get better at it. It's not too bad at all.
It is quite powerful when you hit it because they'll all sort of run into the monster.
That's an elite, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
Now it's not. Try being more elite next time.
Yeah, I mean, the elites are definitely an area that I could improve, I think, quite substantially in making the combat more interesting. Because at the moment they are just like, you spam them harder because they've got more HP.
Yeah.
And they're almost like less interesting in that way.
One thing that mini shoot 'em up games do with power-ups is they make you use them or lose them. And right now I'm holding on to my good ammo until basically it's an elite battle or something like that. So maybe holding fruit forever.
So yeah,
I changed the fruit mechanic a month ago. It used to work like they were applied immediately and they would slowly drain. So it was like use them right after you did it. But then I figured I preferred it having it like a thing that you activate in a key situation. One thing that is the case is that if you get more than you can fit in your gun, then you start wasting them. So there is a certain amount of like you have to use them a certain amount of often, otherwise you are just wasting. Power.
I got hit.
Yeah, that thing shoots you.
I was like, ooh, I'm gonna talk to it. Yep, not good. Can I talk to it now? That is.
No, it's a gun. You can't talk to it. It should not shoot you now that the battle's over.
Will it have your voice? You know what I want.
I'll put that on the to-do list.
Do not underestimate your charm. What the? So that was a bomb.
Yeah, those are bombs. They're sand mines.
Yeah, in roguelikes, a lot of times you just die like that, and then you're like, okay, now I know. In more other types of games, you like introduce the bombs individually or more safely or slowly, so that the player can understand what to expect.
What to expect.
But you know, I'm fine with roguelikes just being like, you died today, so that's fine. So interesting. A lot of it, you know, it's already working and it's working well, but then you have this vision that is so much more complex than what it is now, and building up to
Yeah.
those parts is super tricky. Like some of the ideas you described to me, I feel like are too complex for how simple the base game is.
I mean, that is probably my biggest concern in all of this is trying to pick just a handful of ideas that will give me the most benefit and keep the game simple, but in a way that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really going hard on this idea of unlocking these shortcuts, right? So you have these like challenge shrines. You go in there. Oh, it's a couple of somewhat difficult battles. You beat them, and then a shortcut opens, and then you can reach a further one. And so then, you know, if I can make like a dozen of these, spread them across the map, then that's like a very natural way of progressing through a map, unlocking these shortcuts as you go. And it's comparatively low effort to add, and it's sort of like repeatable. So I like having that. And then it also maybe ties into the end game where it's like, oh, well, there's 4 especially hard ones that are further out. And so, you know, you unlock some easier ones to get the shortcuts that you can reach the harder ones. And so there's sort of a repetition in that mechanic that I really like, and so that's kind of what I'm focusing on for the progression of the game.
I feel like all the ideas that you discussed is enough for Patch Quest 3. I feel like a handful of them are good for one game. A handful of them are good for a twist on the main game. Like the whole egg thing, I feel like is a sequel. And then even other ideas still is like, ooh, now this is like blah blah blah. So
the thing is, there's this whole thing about capturing loot.
yeah,
And I've never come up with a good usage for that loot that you capture.
and the loot is mostly just plants, right?
Yeah.
And the plants at most just give you different ammo or health.
For the most part, yeah. Some of them
Yeah.
give you buffs, but they're mostly
ammo.
most of them are decorative or hazards, honestly.
Yeah, so then you're like, why would I want to collect those for any reason, right?
Yeah.
There.
So I mean, maybe that's really the thing. Maybe I should remove the whole capturing mechanic.
That sounds like a sequel now. Like, oh, like in this game you can move around patches and terraform the land, but the first game should just be explore the land, right?
Yeah, it would definitely simplify a lot of things if I didn't have the patch capturing. Because then you wouldn't need a thing to spend them on.
Yeah. Survival and exploration, those are two big ones. You don't need a economy on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely think about that because I think that
The capturing is the weakest part of the game. And so perhaps it would be a good point for simplification, just to have it so that you don't like you could maybe still scan them when you're in the world next to them, and be like, oh, you know, I get a little bit of flavor or whatever. But the whole capturing thing is it's like I feel like it's a vestige from the way the game used to be like a year ago.
Yeah.
It is nice having like cool things in your base like this to look at, but mechanically it just doesn't do very much.
Yeah,
for you.
this whole base thing can happen in the background and automatically, I think.
Yeah.
Just have these things. So you can just, if you talk to more plants or whatever or something, you can just have like plants appear on the fringes, and when you go back to your base, like, I don't want this one, you throw it away, like move it to the outside. You're like, I like this plant, you pick it up, you're like, I want this here, and the ones on the outside disappear and the ones that are close don't. So you're like, it happens in the background, you can ignore it, and it's still based on your exploration, but you never have to consciously like collect and then place and rearrange. Yeah, it's just like, I like cactus, I put cactus, that's it. That taps into the Animal Crossing like feel of, you know, some things are random, but some things you can prune, and you'll take what you can get and move on. Like, I don't like this plant right here. Get out of here, fern.
Yeah.
Get out. Can't pick it up.
There's a bug right now. You can't get rid of it.
What? I can't even pick up what I used to pick up. What happened? Bug?
This part of the game is so underdeveloped that
Okay.
there's bugs in it that I don't even know exist.
All good.
So
Back to exploring.
but no, I think actually that's a really good idea to sort of really take a step back from the whole capturing, and base building and then planting aspects of it, still have it as a decorative thing, since it's already implemented, and be like, oh, you get cool things. Maybe like monsters could, show up and you can like pet them or whatever.
Yeah.
Just as a little mechanic, but as a purely sort of cosmetic kind of like just something nice to look at when you come back home sort of thing. I think that could simplify the game a lot, because even I often forget to capture things when I'm off doing playtest runs.
Yeah.
It's not as tied in. Also, I could get rid of it along the top green there, which would make the just the HUD a little bit cleaner. I like having a clean HUD. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm gonna consider.
Oh, I was also gonna say, for every feature that you think is interesting and you're having a hard time tying into the main game, you could actually design your dungeons around all the specific systems, right? Like
Specific systems.
let's say there was a capture dungeon, and you go in, you take pictures of stuff, and it's kind of puzzly. You can rearrange things, move around, fight things, and it's all contained in there. When you leave, no more capturing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Oh, let me say this idea too. You probably need monster intros to make the elites more special. And in the what?
What do you mean by monster intro?
Like a little animation?
Like they pop in, the game kind of freezes and kind of turns the monster sprite into a title card. Show the name, and then you can say like, you have this level, you've killed this many, like this guy killed you last time, get your revenge or something like that. So like, oh, it reminds you of all the things you've done right when you need to be reminded. Because I don't know how many I've killed of whatever or what level. I guess the lion's at level 1, everything's at level 1 that I rode. But yeah. Tell the story. It's all about the story. Like, what did I do last time and what do I need to do next time, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And just for the elites and more powerful things than elites. Players can scan anything else.
As well, yeah. Yeah, definitely. When they enter in, there could be a little like I see what you mean by like a title card, sort of zoom in, sort of thing.
With your voice, of course. I tell you, if you just put in one of your voice in an audio sample and don't tell people where it is, see if your other playtesters find it and what they say about it. I'm telling you, it's so fun. At least here in America, we really like documentaries and stuff with foreign accents
British
like
voices.
that. Yeah, it's so good.
I'll think about it. I mean, to be honest, if I was going to add some kind of like sprawling voice acting thing, then it would have to be me, because I can't pay somebody to do that much voice acting. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll have a think about it.
No problem. No worries. In the kind of humor that you have in your YouTube videos, also funny. It's because you tell almost all your humor in the same tone of voice. So like, it's like professional, but then you're like, get this out of here. You're like, that's funny. That's the sarcastic narrator or whatever. The or slightly humanized narrator is always fun. It's like you're in there with them in the adventure.
Yeah, I'll definitely think about that. It was cool how when I was playing Children, actually, what the story elements of that game, where like it pauses for a little while and then the narrator just gives like 3 lines of dialogue, but with some kind of relevance to the gameplay that you're doing. I found that was the most interesting part of the game, and just little like I wasn't expecting it to be when I went in.
Which game?
Children of Morta. Have you played it?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It was a 2019 roguelike. The focus was on the story, which I thought was going to be kind of a gimmick for a roguelike, because normally they're so focused on mechanics. But it was really well done, where after each you have like this family of characters, and they like have they're all like demon fighters or whatever, and you go like into the demon world and fight things. But then you come back, and then they have like family interactions with each other. And it was just like, it was little things like 15 seconds after each run that you do, where they just throw in a little bit of story,
Yeah.
and it really helped to sell the game. And sort of break up the monotony of just going into the dungeon over and over again. So I kind of think it might be interesting to have like little voice samples of like when you scan things or something like that. So, you know, you're starting to sell me on this idea. I'll have a think.
Quick suggestion: don't let the player move move much when they get the tree upgrade, like I just grabbed. The sparkle effects go to where the player is, and I think I was nearly crossing the tile when they hit me. But it's cooler just to be like, you know, duh, and then they hit you, and then you move on instead of it makes it more of a moment, and it makes the whole thing more clear, I think.
If you're not running around.
Yeah, like just freeze the player and just have them in front of the tree. It's nice. It's a nice little moment. Give them a sound effect.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep your power-ups from one zone to the other. They last so short. Or do the power-ups only last one full clip? Is that what it is?
The power-up?
The smoothies.
The smoothies only last until the blue meter empties.
Okay.
So you get like one super clip worth of shoot.
Is it time-based or shooting-based?
It is both time-based and shooting-based.
Okay.
It has a base rate of drain, which is relatively slow, but then it has a much faster rate of drain when you are shooting.
Okay.
Just so that it's mostly based on shooting, so there's some incentive not to just spam it.
Yeah.
But it is also a little bit of time drain, so there's an incentive not to just like use it and then go run off like 3 rooms and then start shooting.
Yeah. And my patch capture recharges by just exploring tiles.
They capture by battles.
Oh,
Every time
okay.
you battle, it refills 1 quarter. You have to do 4 battles to capture.
Okay.
But you're selling me on the idea of not having capturing in the game.
Yeah, even then I captured 2 things right now, but I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's go right. Man, those things are far, and I went the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. That's another. I just what you said earlier about having the mini map show maybe when you're going between rooms or something, that would help a lot. But also I've removed this vortex system already. I'm trying to have more of an authored thing of like, oh, there's a bunch of things around the world, and wherever you go you'll find one of them, and then if you beat the challenge you get a shortcut so you can go further. That's kind of what I'm focusing on for the primary exploration, the primary progression of the game. So at the moment it is just kind of lame how it's like the world is kind of uniform. The habitats do change, but for the most part it's kind of uniform. And then you go a really long distance, and then you unlock a vortex thing that doesn't even really help you that much unless you go back there. So I like the new shortcut system a lot better.
Nice. The shooter gun shot at me after the "you win" sound effect happened. So, it's still shooting.
Is it?
Yeah, I just shot
Right
at
in
me.
front of it?
Yeah.
Oof. All right, that's a bug.
Okay. Cool.
Um,
I like these little enemies run at you kind of thing. It's a nice little different.
Yeah, the swarm enemies.
Swarms.
So I
Swarm,
like
yes.
I'm thinking like of maybe some other ways I can do battles like this. I thought there could be stampede rooms where basically the monsters charge through the room
Yeah.
for like a certain amount of time and shoot at you, and you're mostly dodging them.
Yeah, survival. You can also do a thing where there's one unique type of monster and the others are just distractions, and you have to take out the unique monster.
Oh, that's interesting. That could be related to an elite.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, so I asked you before, in previous versions of Patch Quest when it was 2D, like what is the most interesting sort of gameplay you can imagine that can exist on a single screen of Patch Quest?
Yeah.
And you had a little hard time answering the question, and we talked through it and found out some stuff. But now that these
Yeah.
ideas are real time and you've got all these different types of gameplay challenges, now it seems like you have a much wider design space of
I do. Yeah,
very
that's something
clearly
that's really
communicated
changed.
challenges, which is really nice. So now I can imagine being in a dungeon where the gameplay is significantly different, the movement and how you traverse it or what you're thinking about is significantly different, and you look forward to the next dungeon because they're different
Yeah.
enough. Instead of just like, I want something challenging, challenge me, challenge me. That's what people say when
Yeah.
the game's not interesting anymore. It's got to be hard because otherwise, why am I here? And you're like, yeah, I get it, I get it.
Yeah, having that variety is the key, really. I think.
Ooh, landmines that I died to last time. Oh, when you get close. Oh, that guy got burned.
Yeah, they can also affect the monsters.
Nice.
The octopus was invisible and just ran on it there. So that is a thing. Like I've tried with some of these. Some of the hazards are definitely more interesting than others, but I like these exploding ones. Also in the swamp biome, there are Venus flytraps that work similarly, except that they are multi-use because the trap can like reopen.
Can this guy die when I'm trying to lasso him?
No, I made them invincible when you're lassoing them. Partially because the game supports co-op, and I didn't want an exploit where basically you could lasso a monster and then the other person just like shoots it down while you're lassoing it.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not an exploit, it could just be an accidental thing, like, oh man, I was lassoing that and you
Yeah,
just
you
killed
killed
it.
him. You kill your friend after that. Something about that I was just thinking. Oh yeah, like man, you have so many things now. Oh, it's insane. The lasso probably needs to be used for more than just lassoing enemies.
Yeah, it's difficult because I thought in the past about having it be used like a Zelda hookshot.
Mhm.
Where it's like, oh, I'm in trouble, so I like hookshot myself to another part of the room, you know.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out in playtesting because it was just like in an action game like this, you don't have time to make a plan like that and execute it.
Yeah.
Um,
But now that I'm thinking of specific non-enemy challenge rooms and different ways to traverse a dungeon to make the movement feel different. Just walking. So like in Secret of Mana, they had these gaps, and it's a 3-player top-down action RPG, and they have these gaps that you couldn't cross unless you had a whip, and you have to switch to your whip and then whip it, and all the characters like fling themselves across, and it was basically just a very simple gate. But I like that so much because it's like, this is what whips do. This is why whips are unique from all the other weapons, and I like it. So like the simplest things, you'd be surprised when they're thematically coherent, how much of a
Yeah.
positive effect they'll add.
I think using the lasso would actually be a really smart thing to do if I'm going to add puzzle rooms to dungeons. The lasso could be like your interaction
Yep.
tool.
Yeah, like how to interact with the enemies, shoot them. How to interact with the world, lasso it. And those are like your two primary sort of mindsets.
Yeah, and then it encourages you also to be unmounted sometimes.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, there's some things concepts I want to go over just to see. Hold on, I'm shooting a gigantic thing. Reflect, suckers. Okay, I didn't know how that worked. Do I hold it?
It's no, you tap it, but it's a fast action. You've got to be next to something to reflect it.
Reflect. Sticky shot. Let's do this. You get stuck. Reflect! The reflect doesn't go back to the target at all. I guess it just reverses its whatever its movement is.
It's based on its orientation to you, so it reflects away from your origin.
That's fine. There can always be a more powerful reflect that always goes back to the enemy that shot it or whatever.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love this.
Cool, actually.
Reflect! Having an elite and a boss, that's insane. Definitely, like right now, let me see. I don't think dude should explain things like this right when you get it. It
it came up before I had before I was done celebrating. And you know how Mega Man does it, where the boss explodes, it's quiet, the music plays, Mega Man taunts, teleports, and then you get this very specialized, like, here's what you got screen. Like, definitely make sure the player can celebrate these victories.
Yeah. Okay.
Because right now, even this boss battle was unique, and it was larger than the other battles. But when you beat it, if you exit the map and the whole conflict wraps up this quickly, it doesn't have the ending that justifies its epicness.
Yeah,
I mean, I think when I added this feature here, I was not anticipating leveling up right as you beat a boss. But I think, do you reckon just adding like more of a pause before this?
Yeah. Does the boss have a victory chime or anything like that?
No.
And does the player have any kind of like victory dance where he jumps up and down, or he or she or whatever?
No, currently not.
Those
That'd be cool thing.
those two little things go a long way. Making sure that the game celebrates with the player and their victories, huge. If you even if something as simple as putting a coin in a Mario level in a place that's like obscure and hard to get to, is an acknowledgement from the designer and the player that like, yep, like this was neat. Now move on, like go on with your life. It has to be done, kind of a thing.
Having a little victory chime or dance or both would definitely be a good idea. Written that down.
And like you said, this boss only lasts for a few battles. That theme should carry through as you ride with the boss, because you're basically invincible.
Yeah, like a Starman theme.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Mario.
expecting right now. But it's just quiet.
It shouldn't be quiet. It should have that monster's music, does it not?
This music sounds very lighthearted and
Lighthearted, yeah.
and
'cause
like
it's a jellyfish.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you're right. I could get for like invincibility. That would be a good idea. Because then it would make this more clear as well.
Yeah.
I do want that you are doing something cool here and not just like sort of stuck to a monster. The idea I had for that section was like in the if you ever played Paper Mario 2000 Year Door, there are sections between some of the levels where you play as Bowser, and the twist is that you basically just charge through the level and destroy everything because you're Bowser.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the feel I was trying to go with when you beat the Jumbo Monster. It's like the payoff mechanically is that you can skip 2 battles and you just charge through and you're invincible and everything runs away from you. But I could do more like music and things to sell that. I think also maybe when you're on the Jumbo Monster, the enemies like run away from you, but maybe your Jumbo Monster could also sort of autonomously like start shooting them down just to make it more obvious why they're running away.
Yeah.
It could be like, you know, just like firing.
Or if you run into them, they definitely need to be bumped. Like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bump pretty hard, just fly off into the distance.
Yeah, I see that the enemies now all have like the same fixed expression, and it'd be hard to change that. But yeah, even just being able to replace the eyes with like a big X or a big whatever, a closed eyelid, that does that's what Pokemon did in Pokemon Black when they were still using sprites. They had the ability for every Pokemon to close their eyes.
Because then they can blink as well.
Yeah. Eye control. And it's the most important, and then I think it's mouth and jaw control, and then whatever else.
Yeah, I'll definitely. It is a lot of work to do that. We'll consider adding eye control.
And if it's not on every enemy, you can pick and choose, or find some other kind of stylistic.
For sure.
And also, if I go ahead with removing capturing from the game, I'll have a bunch more time in my plan to add stuff like this.
Nice.
So, I definitely feel what you're saying about how there's just still a lot of mechanics in the game, too much content being thrown at the player all at once as well. I think that if I was more judicious in how the content was introduced, then I could go a lot further with what's already in the game.
Yeah.
That's partially why I had the idea of letting you unlock the starting exits, because then it's like, instead of, oh, I just throw 4 different levels at the player right when they start, it's like you start with 1 and then you quickly upgrade into 2, 3, and 4 over, say, the first half an hour. But then it will feel more impactful because you're getting these things, you're working for them, and you're getting them one at a time, and you're seeing them individually. It's not just like, which way do I go now? I guess I'll go this one. And, you know, I think it can be a bit overwhelming at the start with just the amount of things I throw at the player.
Ooh, almost got hit.
Nice. I'm liking a lot of these pieces. It's really come a long way. Especially considering, like, I've played Patch Quests, I guess, a few times all together, where I've played through the few different versions a lot and gotten to the dungeons of them. But even still,
Yeah.
it's still fun to play.
Cool.
The hardest part about trying to figure out which things to sort of pare down is that, like, you'll probably be one of the... You're a difficult judge, a person to judge what needs to stay and what goes. So, like, taking some polls or having other people prioritize some of their favorite moments may help bring some clarity to that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I know I would definitely, like, after playing this, I would think about it and I'd be like, well, what am I looking forward to most? And that, if you have a list of all the features that you have planned for the game, and I can, like, prioritize them based on what I think is interesting, if you want.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. I'll write down sort of a bullet point list of my plans for the next few months. But yeah, overall, I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about the game than I was even 6 months ago. I feel like it is starting to come together. It's just still a little messy in places, a little, like, not quite as cohesive as I want it to be. And then also needs to be developed into the mid and late game.
Interesting.
So having that kind of, like, having story threads and missions and reasons to go things a little bit more hand-holding, I think would go a long way. And introducing things a little bit more one at a time, I think would also help as well. And paring away some of the things like capturing, which are kind of unnecessary.
That bullet bounced.
I did not know
that.
That move bounces, yeah.
Is co-op in this version?
Yes.
Cool.
If you are in the home base, you can press another controller to connect it.
Shamshrew. I like these names. Shamshrew.
Yeah, even if your voiceover was only just saying the names of the things,
Still good.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Soap shield. It didn't work. I don't know what it does. I'm dying. Oh,
It's a, like, defensive shield. Those things can reflect your bullets because they're magnetic.
I'm getting paralyzed like crazy, and I couldn't charge my ammo.
Okay, that was fun.
We've talked about just about everything, and since it was so much, I think now's a good time to just wrap it up.
I reckon so.
Well, that was fun, though. Let me just hit this button.
If you have anything you want to say to the people, where to find you, or your Twitter, or whatever, go ahead and do that now.
So, the main thing would be to go to the Patch Quest YouTube channel. If you put Patch Quest into YouTube, it'll come right up.
Okay.
If you want to play the game, there is the Discord server. If you search Patch Quest Discord, that'll come up. We could also put a link in the chat. And on the Discord server, you can see my plans. You can see me post about development. I post every work day about what I'm doing, and I'm pretty active, so you can follow it there. And you can also, through Discord, download and play the latest version of the game.
Cool. I recommend it.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, even though it's not where you want it to be, it still feels like a complete game. The way you've been doing your releases, your demos, and your production,
Yeah.
they feel solid. And then there's just more stuff you want to do. Nice.
I think that yeah, I've got a good idea of where to head now, what to simplify. But I'll be posting some stuff in your Discord in the coming days,
Cool.
likely. So we'll pick it up from there.
Cool. All right. See you later, everybody.
See ya.